Lovely. So we've not had an Elementor meetup for quite a while. Numbers were dwindling and we thought we'd covered most of the topics over 2 years. So this is actually the first one this year. So unfortunately, John can't join us. He's at a baby, so he's spending all his time doing that just now, and that's fair enough. I was exactly the same when Mike was born. So tonight the topic is Elementor Editor version 4. I've been playing with it for about a week and a half now. I really didn't touch it when it came out because it was changing quite dramatically. It's still an alpha and it's due to change quite a bit, but I think it's stable enough to show you the rough concepts as to where Elementor are going with this. 6 p.m. start in the week. About an hour. I'll try and keep it to an hour, maybe less, so that people can get on with their lives. A little bit about me. My name's Will. I organise quite a few meetups. So I organised WP Sydney meetup, this meetup. We're trying to kick off the WooCommerce Sydney meetup again. I organise WordCamp Australia, WordCamp Sydney, but we're not having a WordCamp this year. Maybe not next year either. It really depends on who puts their hand up. But I have been mentoring quite a few meetups. I'm mentoring WordCamp Slovenia in 2026. I did Phoenix last year. I'm involved in the Everything Open 2026, which is Linux Australia. So I'm really heavy into event management and organization at the moment, as well as my day job, which is developing WordPress websites, looking at APIs and automation and stuff is my specialty. I love doing automation and APIs. So that's me. I've been working with WordPress since 2005, so I kind of know it inside and out. We do have a code of conduct that we abide by for all these meetups, basically being be respectful, be nice to each other. I'll drop it down there in the comments. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up to everyone else. You don't have to, but if you'd like to, I'm going to open up the floor. Just introduce yourselves, who you are, what you do. Make it brief, 30 seconds. We don't need your life history. So yeah, if you want to, then I'll open the floor. Put yourself on cam, put yourself on mic, and introduce yourselves.
I guess I'll go.
Yep, go for it, Steve.
Okay. I'm Steve. I'm from outside of Los Angeles, and I've been doing WordPress for almost 15 years. And I got in here right as you guys were talking about AI. We just had a WordCamp US, and I went to the AI meetings. I was real excited, and I saw the AI demo of the AI for Elementor, and that is outstanding. That like a what they call it, Alexa or not Alexa, something like that. Angie, and
Angie.
it is game changer. And it's doesn't have to work with Elementor alone. So that's me.
Nice breakdown. Anyone else want to jump in?
Hey, I'm Nadia from Australia, Sydney. So yeah, obviously been to some of the WordCamps, been a talker way back when. Also at some of the previous meetups as well. Been using WordPress and Elementor now for many years. But yeah, haven't had much of a double yet with version 4, but so that's why I've come on today to have a bit of a squiz and see what's going on with it. Yeah, I can see it's changing quite a lot, which is a little bit daunting considering how much I use Elementor, but excited to see the changes that are coming as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Nadia. I'm just going to reshare my screen. There we go. Let's move on. Okay, always try and do some Elementor updates for these meetups. I think it's useful just to know what's happening in the ecosphere. There are 3 places to go if you want to see where. I'll drop that in the chat. There's the free changelog, which is on wp.org. There's the pro changelog, which is on elementor.com, and the developers update, where they usually have a developers update. It's in the blog section for every release. So if you're a developer, that's worthwhile checking. They kind of go a little bit more in depth into that. So those are the 3 locations. Let's have a quick look. There's also a roadmap as well. The roadmap just tells you what's kind of in vision for the next, what they're working in progress, what's beta. It's also been what's delivered, but I've kind of chopped off that column because not interested in what's been delivered. We're interested in all the juicy stuff that's coming up next. So this is the current one that I took a snapshot a couple of days ago. So in version 4 feature CSS transform. So that allows you kind of rotate, skew, and all the kind of fancy stuff, all the different elements. There's a variables manager, which I am excited about. I love using CSS variables, and being able to define them within the UI editor is going to be a bit of a game changer, I think, because I just go all like when I brand a client website, it's all in variables, all the colors, everything, the fonts, the styles, it's all in variables. So I'll have to pull those variables out. So that'll be good. Be looking forward to that. In progress, size variables, again, just more variable stuff in CSS, but they're specifically implementing that with the size at the moment. I guess they're just looking down how they're going to weigh up, how they're going to manage variables before they go into like the actual UI manager. So how they're going to implement them and how do they work. And transitions as well. So smooth transitions between states. So like blinking, not blinking, like, fading colors and stuff like that. So you'll be able to actually change the transition rate and delays, which is good. There's 3.32 is in beta at the moment. If you want to get it the version 4, that is an alpha feature. You have to go in the settings. A little bit of a breakdown as to what's happened this year, because we haven't had a meetup this year. There's been quite a lot of stuff happening. Grid container span controls was in January, so that's kind of true CSS grid layouts now, with a proper width and column span. Local Google fonts were loaded in January to really speed up things. I love that. I use it all the time. I never ever load the Google fonts over their CDN anymore. It's just too expensive. It slows down things. Class manager and states, it's kind of reusable styles were introduced, although when you see version 4, that's probably going to be put to a side. And then they went in a little bit with cloud templates and full website templates could kind of push up to the cloud. So you can manage those in the cloud and then kind of pull them back down when you're doing client sites. That was around about May. Then the version 4, into version 4, it was first pushed out in May as a very kind of alpha. So it's still alpha, but kind of very kind of just play around, see what it looks like-ish. It wasn't really particularly usable back then, but it's got a little bit better now. Again, variables in August, last month, inherited values, and then we've got a couple of things in the version 4, which is class usage overview. I'll show you that in action, and some filters built in to things like blur and brightness and contrast. And again, these are building upon the version 4 editor. So these are things that will be in there, but they're kind of just slowly bringing them in feature by feature so you can test and see how they work. So what we're all here for is the version 4 Elementor, the lowdown on that. So let's get stuck straight into that. So big changes. A lot of people are talking about this. The version 4 editor, it's not really a UI overview. It's more of a workflow shift. So in the past, we're used to adding widgets or features, dragging them onto the canvas, onto the page, and then change them bit by bit. So you add in the button, adding a div, creating a card, that sort of stuff. Version 4 kind of changes the way you think about creating the website rather than just kind of drawing on blocks. It kind of goes more fundamental into a true CSS-based, first-based system. It's a bit of a mind shift. So it gets you to stop thinking about how you edit this particular widget on a page, and it starts thinking about how do you build this whole system with reusable units that is called a website. Okay, so it's the term is CSS-first class-driven. So we think of design systems and not these one-off widgets, as I said. So instead of styling every button individually, you assign a class, a single class that you will update once, and that replicates the change all the way through the website. So it kind of mirrors how modern developers build design systems. So they're not thinking about these single parts. They're thinking about the whole system as a unit and how the parts then integrate into that unit and how the design reflects across the entire system, not just per bit by bit. So we're talking about classes, we're talking about variables, we're talking about states. So, hover, active, visited, those sort of states that we're talking about, things that change. That can all be controlled in this new CSS-first class-based system. So it is going to make Elementor sites easier to maintain, easier to scale, easier to hand over to clients. And building them is going to be really, really quick. Once you get all your class systems, and after you've been using this for a while, you will build your own set of classes. And I'm sure you'll be able to export and import them in at some point. I'm sure that'll be on the roadmap. It's going to make things super, super easy. And we'll show you how that works later on. Why freelancers need to pay attention to this? It's not going to be optional. So at some point, Elementor, the same as they did with sections, version 4 editor will be switched over at some point. There's no date for that. There's no talk about that just now, but it's a bit inevitable. If you think, 1 year, 8 months, even 2 years down the line, at some point, they're going to switch over to version 4 being the default editor. So it's not going to go away. It's here. So really kind of pay attention, get on board just now, have a think about how it works and how you might not necessarily migrate, but kind of, start up a new workflow with websites using the system. So it's going to be very efficient. So faster builds, consistency as well is going to be fantastic. So you're no longer going to have a client and you're doing the client review and you get to one of the sub pages and there's a button, and they've got like an orange button, that's their brand, but there's this blue button sitting there with the Elementor default stuff that you've not styled. That's going to be a thing of the past. Future proofing as well. They have mentioned, Elementor have mentioned that legacy widgets are still going to work, but the Elementor roadmap is clearly class first. So will still work, will still have support. Same as sections still work at the moment, but with a view of at some point, you probably be redesigning and moving over at some point, but not in the immediate future. It's going to give you a competitive edge as well. It's going to align you more with how devs create things outside of the WordPress ecosphere. Most people will do class-based systems for big scalable systems. It's really going to look pro. And there's the other page builders. There's one out there that does this out of the box, but others aren't particularly interested or haven't shown any movement in this direction. So it's going to get you kind of ahead of the curve when this comes in. So what it actually is, I briefly mentioned this. It's not a UI facelift at all. It's a major structural change in the way that you build websites. Cleaner markup as well. So there's going to be less stuff around to try and implement this. It's kind of going true native CSS as close as you can without as much scaffolding around about it. And they're focusing on these things called modular atomic elements. And we'll talk a little bit about atomic elements in a bit. This is what the class system looks like. So on the left-hand side, when you've got the navigation, so rather than you have all the different bits that change, like style and content, and things like that, you just have this consistent interface now. And it's got all the different styles, layout, spacing, size. There'll be more that's added. But this is consistent and it never changes. Okay, so this is one of the best changes, I think, to the editor, is that you're going to have a consistent place where you go and set stuff. Elementor is already good with that. So you know where to go when you're within a widget, rather than with, for example, Gutenberg, where you've got 3 or 4 different places where you have settings. You've got the little pop-up, then you've got 3 vertical dots, then you've got the right-hand menu, and then you've got so this is going to be great. It's going to be one single place that you go to with all the different options in the same place all the time. So I'm going to love that. It is a class-first workflow. Oh, I've got a little bit of text in there. Sorry about that. Just to get your head around this. So many people might not understand what this means. It's a one-to-many concept, meaning that you define something one time, and then you apply it to many different elements throughout your website, your design. So a single class can style dozens of different elements, just like one branch of this, the background image kind of supports many leaves. And you'll notice in this picture that all the leaves look alike. And that's because they come from that single branch, which encodes the styling for all the individual leaves. So it makes it look as if they're all the same, but essentially they're all being styled from whatever is encoded in that particular branch, that the style manager, the way that leaves are meant to be designed. It's going to be more scalable. So add more leaves, elements, and they inherit that same shape and style without any extra effort. So you don't have to individually go in and change them all. As I say, it's super scalable. So you can add more leaves, elements, and it's very efficient. So instead of styling each leaf individually, as you would here, so imagine that's a traditional Elementor website, and it's got lots of buttons, components and things. Rather than going to each one and styling them, you're just styling, you're just creating a style and then applying to it. It's very, very efficient. There's going to be a state manager as well. So for dynamic styling, so just as a chameleon adapts its colors to its environment, elements are going to adapt their look in hover, focus, and active states. And I'll show you how to implement that. But again, this is something where on the current editor, you've got to go into each element, and then you've got to style what happens on hover, what happens on focus, or the worst case is when you present it to a client and maybe you click on a menu item and you've got a white background, and then you go back to the home page and there's no menu item because the active or visited is set to white, and you're like, oh, so you've got to go in, set all this. So that's going to be a thing of the past. So no extra CSS tricks. It's all going to be built into the UI. So buttons changing on hover, form fields on focus, menus on active, all that sort of stuff can be set once and then just applied. So it forces the idea your website isn't static. It does respond to user actions and how Elementor makes that kind of workflow more effortless and quicker to do as designers and developers. And that's always a good win. Here is the same type of interface here. I'll show you how these work, but generally for these active states, it's those three vertical dots at the end of that little tab that you click on, and then you get to define the normal state, which is nothing, and then you've got hover, focus, and active. And that's how you define those. You define them once and then apply, and that's it. So great, easy way to apply interactive states. No more hacky CSS or duplicate widgets. Great for buttons, menus, links, forms, etc. So we've kind of thought of everything there. Global classes. So these are going to be reusable assets. These are the classes that you define. It's like pulling the right book off a shelf. Global classes give you kind of ready to apply consistent styles. A central control. So change once in the toolbox and every instance updates across your entire site. So no more having to go into individual elements and change all those things. So for example, just say your client comes back, they've had a review and they want to change all the buttons across the site. They want to change the border radius, they want to change the background color, they want a new hover color, and maybe focus and active. And you're like, oh man, it's okay. It's okay if, you've got a few buttons, but, you're doing big websites, you're maybe in the hundreds of elements and you're like, oh, nightmare for that. A couple of screen share as in within Elementor. Belinda saying, is a screen share? I'm sharing my screen. You should be able to see that. Can you not see it? You can. Yep. Okay. No, Belinda can't see it.
No,
I should.
She can't see it.
No, I've got no screen share here, Will. I can't see anything.
Right.
Wait, did you click on the tab upstairs? Did you click on the tab up top?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sharing. Let me just stop the share and do it again. Screen one. Okay.
All right, now I've got it. All right. Thank you.
Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to quickly backtrack, right, and show you just a couple of the things. So this is what the editor UI looks like now. So this is the class system, got layout, spacing, sizes. So this is the one thing that's there all the time, consistent across all the new Atomic elements. This is the branch thing I was trying to say. So each of the leaves look all the same. that's defined once in the branch, like the DNA encoding in the branch. That's the kind of idea of this class first workflow, is you define something once and then apply it to all your elements. So just say you want to change the leaves to red, you'd go into the branch, hack the DNA style that says leaf background color, hack that to red, and then it would all change to red. So that's the idea that we're talking about. The state manager, so we're talking about hover, active, normal. That's what it looks like. So when you've got your classes in here, there's 3 little vertical buttons, click on it, and you've got your normal status, and then hover, focus, and active as well. So I'll show you that in the demo. Apologies for that. So I thought I was sharing that. Here's the kind of idea of the global classes, where you've got all these kind of books and you've got like particular styles that you pull out. Central toolbox, change once. So your client wants to change something, a color, a border radius, something. You just change one thing and it replicates all through the site. So that's where I was up to. So faster builds, less duplication. This is really a step forward in design systems inside Elementor. It's a huge, huge change. And it's something that agencies and pros are going to love. They probably won't love Elementor because they'll say, it makes it slow. But within that Elementor, it gives us the ease to develop and deliver a website easily. It allows the clients to take control of it. Yeah, there's a little bit of speed trade-off, but you're now starting to get what pro devs are using, the system that they're using, kind of, class first based design. Okay, we've caught up. So the new building blocks inside the editor version 4, they're called atomic elements. The idea that is they are simple, they are modular elements. So there's only a few at the moment. There's heading, there's Flexbox, there's div, there's button, etc. But these can be combined. Again, going back to simplicity, these can be combined into pretty much anything. I love using generate press and generate blocks. And that's the same idea. There's only 4 or 5 basic things that you need. You need a container, you need a heading, you need like a grid system and a button, and that's pretty much it. And you can build entire websites just from those. And Elementor's going down the same route. So they're calling these atomic elements. These are the most simple elements that you need to build a website. Of course, there's going to be heaps of other things at the time, but they're just concentrating on these basic ones at the moment. So clean structure, smaller, lighter pieces equals less DOM bloat, so less structure around them, which is going to mean faster loading time. Scalability, so just like Lego, infinite designs from a limited set of consistent parts. It really has a tie back to performance. So the fewer unnecessary wrappers and stuff that goes around these elements, the leaner and faster the websites are going to be. So I love this concept and I love the name Atomic Elements. I just think that's great. Okay. Flexbox and Grid versus version 4. So at the moment, when you've got a container, you can set it to be a Flexbox or a Grid. So these layout tools, they're going to remain as they are. So Flex and Grid still handle structure, but what's new is the approach to implementing these. So it's going to be a style setting rather than a particular widget. So if you drag a grid on there or a Flexbox, you get all these things kind of set up for you, and it's good to go. Whereas this new design approach is you're dragging a component and then you can choose to style it as a flex or style it as a grid or not. So it's a styling approach rather than a feature approach. It's really cleaner. It makes it so if you're dragging a Flexbox across the old system, it's got all these divs and stuff and settings that you might just not need. So the idea is you start minimal and you apply what you need to make it do what it wants to do. And so you don't need to, you're not going to lose your containers, by the way. They're still there and you can still use them and they'll be back supported for X amount of time. But you're just going to get a smarter way to style these elements. And it wouldn't be a good talk if I didn't talk about bricks. So bricks is the one of the more popular dev style page builders at the moment. They from the start have been CSS-first driven. So one of the learning curve's been a little bit higher if you were coming from Divi or Beaver or Auction or any of these ones, because this is the way you build things. It's class first, and it's a bit of a mindset shift. So a lot of people find it a little bit tricky to kind of get your head around. But once you learn how to do CSS first, it's like boom, you're off to the races. So Bricks has got a couple of years on Elementor using this type of system. As I say, it was from the start. It was they were implementing this. And Elementor, yeah, they are doing a bit of a catch up. There's no other way of saying it. But I think it's right. I think it's a good direction to go. Bricks has really taken off. I think Elementor, when they implement this class-based first system, I think they'll be kind of on an even footing from a design perspective. Okay, let's jump into a live demo. Let's just flick some things across. Nope. Okay, right. So you're gonna look at my ear for a bit while I go sideways and have a look at this. You can all see this. Yep, thumbs up if you can see. Yep, Steve's nodding. Cool. So this is just a website on local WP. I've just got a single page. So I'm not doing anything fancy. I just want to show you, the interface and show you the differences. So at first, we can see we've got widgets and globals. We can see there's these atomic elements. These are the new ones. Again, we've just got a note that says this is alpha. So please don't put this on production websites. So the atomic elements we've got to play with are Flexbox, div, heading, image, paragraph, SVG, button, YouTube, and a divider. So very, very basic at the moment, and they will expand to different ones. But the thing to know is you've still got your layout, you've still got your existing stuff. So even if you're using editor 4, you can still drag across containers and headings. Yeah, so you can still add that stuff in, and then you get your content, your style in advance, so you can add all that stuff. And that still works, and it will be compatible. So you don't have to freak out that you're going to lose stuff. But what you will know is that when you are adding an atomic element, so this one is a site heading, then those 3 tabs disappear, and you now get, this is the version 4 editor. So you get general. So you can do a few settings, and they're going to be relative to what atomic element you are. And then you're going to get this consistent style in here, which is layout, spacing, size, position, typography, background, border, and effects. So you'll notice that if I don't apply a style, so here, just say I want to change something in here, I might want to change the typography, the font size. Let's put it as a rem and give it 1.6. Okay. So you'll notice from the classes here that when you start on a new atomic element, everything's going to be what's called a local class. Okay. So you can go in individually and change things. And if you change things just the same as you would do normally in Elementor widget, then it shows this little pink icon. And that shows you that style is a local style. So that's the old way of doing it. So you can see straight away if you're in an atomic element that something's being changed locally at a per element level. And then you can get to tell, these are the local ones. Okay. But where the fun comes into is when you start creating the styles for that. Now, I spent a little bit of time, let me just get rid of this. I spent a little bit of time putting some styles together, and I'll show you how to create one. I don't actually get rid of that. Normal, probably. No, anyway, I'll get rid of that. So I spent a little bit of time creating some classes. Just to kind of demonstrate how quickly it can be to change things. If you want to have a look at all the global styles, then when you're in the style menu, you can click on this one here, which is the class manager. That's fine. Ooh, it's slow. Come on. Okay, so these are all the classes that I've created in the last week or so, just playing with them. I'll go over some naming conventions, but you can see things like hover, background color, margin all, one rem, text align center, text align left, text align right. I've got some button stuff, button background color, button text color, border radius, text medium, text normal, text small. That's the kind of idea that you have. So you've got all these classes that are global classes that you can then apply to these atomic elements. So let's get back out of the class manager and let's have a look at this one. So this one here is a site heading. So let's just make this really small. And I can do that by one of my classes. Text, so text, and I've got these ones here, text small. Okay. So now we can see that the new classes that we're creating, they're in this kind of turquoise, cyan, pukey, greeny blue color. But you can see the difference. It's not local anymore. That's not pink. These are now this kind of bluey green color. And if you have a look down, you can see font size. That's the only one that's changed for this style. It has been set to 0.75 rems. So you now know that this, and if I were to go through and see any others, but that's the only one that I've applied, you can see that this now is applying to a CSS style because it's got that turquoise too. Okay. So I could change that. So I can remove it from here, or I can just backspace, and then I can apply a different one. So again, type text. It comes up with all my ones. So I could say, let's do medium. Okay. And then you can start applying different types of text. So just say I wanted that to be all uppercase, like that. So you bundle styles upon styles, and you can click on them, and you can see what's been applied. This one, text uppercase, that'll be in the, what will that be in? It is in typography. Show more. There we go, text transform up there. So really easy, we start applying different things, and we can do that for padding and spacing. So just say I wanted to go on. Oh, another thing, I've been using Elementor for what, 4-5 years, and I just realized this week that you can double click and freaking rename stuff like that. I'm like, boom. I mean, who cares about editor version 4? That was like, wow. Anyway, anyway, okay, let's go back to this. So just say this one here. So I've got a hero section here. It comprised of a heading, paragraph, and button in there. So I can start playing around with this. I can start adding things. I could go into layout and change that locally, but if I want to reuse that across the site, then we need to use styling. So just say I want to give it some padding. There we go. I've got 2 existing classes. So padding all 1.25 rems, or padding all 1 rem. So let's just add a 1 rem, and you can see that changed it there. Maybe I want to change this to a really large text. So again, I'm in style and text. Let's go XXL. Yeah, we like that. And just say we want this to really stand out. So in the background, I might want to make that black. So background color, gunmetal, that'll do. I should probably went into that style and change the text to white. I could do that. So again, I can click on the style here, and it shows me all the stuff. So it's just the background that's applied, but I could then go into the typography and set that to white. So therefore it applies that white to everything. And again, that's just 2 styles. So I can get rid of those again, just by deleting it like that. So I can remove that. And again, it goes back to normal, and then apply that again. Background color gunmetal. And we can scroll down and we can see which ones are affected by the style with this kind of line blue-green. So it's starting to look really good. We can apply these styles. This one here, maybe we want to give that a different padding style. So I'll show you how to create one. So let's go into the style. All we do is we type a name in, and it asks you if you want to do that. So let's just do padding dash all dash 2 dash rem. Okay, now you can press enter and it creates a new style, or you can click on this. It says create new style, and actually you've got your new style, new CSS class there. So then I can go down and just start modifying things. So this is a 2 rem. So let's just type that to rem. Two. There we go. That looks all right. So that, and it saves the CSS styles automatically. We don't have to go down and press the save button. Every time you modify it, it just saves that to the database. So that's all done. So that looks okay. Let's just maybe change this to capitals, just why not? So I can do text, capitalize, or yeah, that looks all right. So here's the button. Let's go for a button. So it's looking a little bit default there. So let's just have a look at some stuff. I'll delete it. You will notice that, I did have an error in some of these pages. So again, this is alpha. Those locals shouldn't be there. It should just be the one local, but it's an alpha. So we expect that. So I've created some button stuff.
Can you delete them?
Yeah.
Can you delete them if you hit the 3?
I could probably, so there's no remove.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Okay, no problem.
Yeah, it's just a bug. These things are expected. So
yeah, I got it. Yeah, no sweat.
Yeah. So I've got some button stuff. Again, this is you before you even get to here, you're going to apply this to all your client stuff. So you define all these things. So button orange, button background orange. We can do button text color white. There we go. And then we'll give it a hover as well. Is it button hover? Yeah, button hover, background color. So that goes white. You should probably change the color to an orangey color. There we go, some of that. We've also got border radius. We type probably border radius 10px. So there, let's just go into the local button, set that color. There we go. So you can start to see it's really, really quick and easy to apply styles for things for those. So all that's been styles. So it's not any elements. It's all just styles. So if you were to update those, you can save and continue. So if you were to want the button to be a different color, just so the client comes back, we can search for button, so button background. It tells you all the locations that it's in. So it's in the home page. So you can find out where that style has been applied. So just say you've got 100 buttons across your website and you click on this locator, it tells you all the pages that are being applied to that. So you can easily find out, how many, where your CSS is based in. So if you were to make a global change, you've got an idea, where it's going to replicate. I've also got the one page, so it's just going to do like the one at the moment. But it's a really good way of navigating for those. Yeah, so you can rename and delete them. So that's your class manager. You can find out the stuff. So quickly go to one of these buttons, and I can just change. Well, let's just apply it to these ones as well. So button background color orange, and this one. Okay, right. So these are all styled with that background. So you can just imagine that you've got consistent across the stage. Let's go into one of them. Button background orange. Now I change this to, also need to rename it as well, but just this. And you can see straight away that'll change. Just because you're changing that one style. And that's the main power. That is the power of this kind of CSS-first based system, is that you can make these sweeping changes, and not just this page, just say you had 100 buttons, that's it, one change, and they're all changed. It keeps it consistent, and that's what you want. What's the time? Okay, I'll just do another little quick demo. So I've got this here. It's called, I've got a card here, got a couple of them. So I've got some styles here. Just say I want to do border radius 10. Yep, that's done. Some flex. Okay, these are just, that's just a normal div, I think. Oh no, it's a flex box, but it's not got any settings done. So if I want to make it flex, then I can define CSS. So flex direction, so I have a column or row. So these are meant to be cards, so I'm going to set it as a column for that. And then flex item center, bong, which is great. So it centers everything, which is lovely, except for this point here. So I'm just going to do text and align center. So everything you'd normally do in each individual widget, then you don't do that anymore. You just apply these particular options, and then that's it done. So again, background. I might want gunmetal for that one. Oh, in fact, let's make it lime. Which one was it? Yes, that one. Remove that one. And then background, lime green. There we go. I've got border radius on it. Yeah, I do have that. And let's get a little bit of padding. Padding all 2rem. And then that's that done. So again, you can I was just playing around with this. Let's just delete that. And then you duplicate that. There we go. And again, if you want to change something, so just say you want to change the background of this card, background color down here. So you're now styling all the different widgets exactly the same, just with one change. So that's it. That's all we wanted to show. That's all there really is at the moment, but it gives you a good idea as to how these styles work. And I love this consistent menu. It's always there. It's always the same for every atomic element. You got your layout, spacing. Of course, things will change. But once you get into this, once it's released as a full version, you're going to know exactly where you're zipping off to change things. It's going to be super fast. So let's come back to the Prezzo. I've got another couple of things I want to cover before we wrap up. So hopefully you can see that. Okay. Speaker notes. Okay. Right. Okay. Yes. Okay. So you're obviously going to be creating a lot of CSS classes. There's going to be lots of names involved in that. There's some established naming conventions that have been around for years and years and years. There's 3 big ones that people use. One is called BEM, which is block, element, and modifier. So the idea is that you have things like button for the primary, that's your element, then button underscore underscore icon. Underscore underscore shows a relationship. So that would mean the icon associated with a button. And then you'd have button dash dash primary. The dash dash is a variation of the primary one. So you could have button dash dash call to action. You could have dash dash contact form. So you're naming those kind of different variation of buttons, but the underlying block is still a button. So that's one approach. There's utility classes, and I've used them today just when I'm testing. So things like text dash center, heading dash mobile. It kind of applies to everything. It's not block specific. And then you've got design tokens, which is, color dash brand 1, brand 2. You've got spacing dash large, or, text dot large, things like that. And it's a particular design. I think for Elementor version 4 editor, it doesn't lock you into any of these. You can choose your own, or you can borrow from each of those. Now, I think for freelancers, if you're designing client sites, certainly for me, I'd be using a mix of BEM, so that kind of block element modifier, and probably a sprinkle of utility classes as well. Probably stay away from design tokens too much, but those two, I think, will be a good mix. And that just gives you a really good naming convention. Otherwise, you're going to get lost in all the classes. You're going to end up with hundreds, possibly thousands, probably not, but definitely hundreds. So knowing exactly what you're applying to, so you apply it to a block, or it's a general utility class, you can really quickly find where you're going. Here's some starter naming classes. So, button, BTN for button as well, rather than use button. You've got text ones, heading dash main dash sub dash body. You got layout. For example, I had a card layout there, or dot section hero, dot section footer, or dot container if you want to keep that one. And then your utility classes for those as well. So it's probably worthwhile thinking about naming conventions when you're starting to get to use the version 4 editor. Otherwise, you are going to get a bit lost in all those different naming conventions, all those different class names. What should you do now? Don't panic. Legacy widgets are still going to work for ages. Same as sections still work, even though containers are now the default. Test it. Test version 4 in staging. At the moment, it says alpha, but copy it and play around with it. Things will change. It's alpha. Expect that. Things will break. I got a huge big 404 error a couple of days ago when I was testing this. I had to actually go into the revision section and go back a couple because it auto-saves something to actually get it to work again. But yeah, start shifting your mindset. Think of classes and reusable styles rather than going into each individual element and widget and changing all those properties. And just watch Elementor rollout timeline. It's gonna like things like Flexbox and Flexgrid. They took a long time to become normal or regular widgets, get away from the alpha and beta stage. I think this one's the push is for really quick on this one. I think Bricks is really going forward quite a bit, and they want to do a little bit of catch up on that. So I think you're going to see this editor 4 being pushed quite a lot. For the naming conventions, I'm going to do a little guide for those. So I'll send that little PDF guide out to everyone from here. It'll just give you an idea of all the different naming conventions with the examples for those. And a little bit of freebie that I'll give out later on. But that's it. It's taken quite a while to go through that. It's a huge big mind shift, a huge big shift in the way that you think and approach about designing. And we did a little bit of a demo of the version 4 editor. So yeah, if you got any questions, please fire away. I probably missed some in the comments. Yeah, Nadia's saying I can see naming conventions getting messy. Yep. Well, you need to have some sort of structure there. And Nad says, recently learned you can copy and paste things from one page to another. I know these simple things. I mean, being able to rename something in Navigator, I had to go and get a cup of tea because I was just like, this is crazy. Yeah, it's a lot more granular and it is going to be so much easier, Steve. Yeah, once you get into the knack of it, just changing things so quickly, you could even do it during a review session with the client, and they'll be blown away. Everything just changes. Rather than say, okay, right, well, I'll get back to you in 2 days, and you're sweating. I've got 100 buttons to change.
Happened to me. That's happened to me more times than I want to admit, actually.
Yeah, me too.
Almost changes. I mean, even when I went to global, would go global and stuff, because I'd have like a page and I'd have something on there, and then oh my word, and that'd be the one they were talking about. It'd be the one I would miss inevitably. I mean, just this is I like it, and I tell you, with this new thing they got coming out, that new AI stuff, it is absolutely amazing, and you can download it and run it on any site. You don't have to have Elementor. It's really cool.
Yeah. Nice. I'll have to get a look into that.
I can see clients not messing up stuff a lot easier now too.
Well, only because they don't want to mess. Only because it's going to look unfamiliar to them, right?
Well, not just that, but because you're globally setting it up. So when they go and add a button or drag something on there, it's got all the settings already preset, much easier.
Yep, that's good.
Yeah. And you can see the interface is simpler. It's more unified. It's easier for them just to be able to create and duplicate stuff. So I have no idea what they're going to do with the existing widgets. Some of them are really complicated, like map widgets and stuff. I don't know how that's going to work with those, or whether they're going to keep a mix. I would think it's going to be a bit weird that they keep a mix, to be honest. But it is alpha. They're playing around with it. Exciting times. We get to see it change and develop. So yeah, I'm in favor of it. I've been looking at Bricks over the past 6 months. Actually, I didn't have any mindset to move, but I like the momentum that it's had. A lot of people are talking about good things, and I was interested in this kind of CSS-first based system. And then when I heard the Elementor were doing the same, I was like, oh, yeah, that's good. Let's stick with Elementor for just now.
I switched for like one site to Bricks. Because Elementor had bummed me out one time like a year ago or something, and I got so frustrated. And I mean, I have a programming background, but I got to tell you, you got to really mess with Bricks you got to really mess with it. It's not, I mean, it's intuitive as it is. If you're a programmer, it's really not that intuitive. and I like Kevin. I've met him. He's a good guy, but I mean, I prefer Elementor. I've been using it since it come to the States. So for me, I got over 200 sites in Elementor. I mean, I can't, even if I 35 active customers, I can't really decide to go somewhere else. Or even if I did, I could start building with something else, but I still have to stay fresh with Elementor because all these sites, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the biggest challenge, I think. Once you've got something like one platform chosen, you've built a lot of sites and you've really committed to stick with it unless you want to switch them all.
Unless something serious comes along.
That's right.
I even wrote a plugin to make the flip boxes accessible because, you know, everybody was always complaining about flip boxes not being accessible. And I have two on one of my sites in the front page. So I was like, you know what? So sitting in the US Elementor leader group, I just wrote the plugin real quick and it works. So I don't even have, you know, so that big problem that everybody always wanted to like slam Elementor for, I took care of it. You know, I say, if you haven't used it enough to be able to complain to someone that knows, like if I mentioned my complaints to Will and you probably know exactly what I'm talking about, you know, way back a year and a half ago or so, and maybe it was 2, and you would know, you know, like when they were making the switch, it was sometimes hard to make a header in it, you know, and get things line up perfectly, you know, and it seemed like, what are you doing? You're going backwards. And, you know, but other than that, I started liking it even more when I saw this just last week. I mean, it just like 3 days ago, I was looking at this AI thing, and it's, and one of my buddies from a different meetup up in Portland, he was like, have you seen this? And I'm like, no. And he goes, this is game changing. He's like, there's only 2 things that I think are neat at this. And I don't like Element, and he doesn't like Element. And he's like, this is bad. It's really good. So take a look at it, guys.
Have you tried the site kit where it spits out a wireframe and site map and stuff? Have you tried that?
Oh yeah, from with the home. That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Even Google with the other theme, like what they call it. They got that other theme. I can't remember what it is, but it comes with all that. That was kind of cool.
The Biz one, Hello Biz, is it? Yeah.
Hello Biz. That's what I was thinking. I couldn't remember the name of the theme for a second.
I did that. I used it as a concept for one of my. I've got friends and family that support some websites, and one of them was looking at for a redesign. I was like, oh, let's just use this anyway. Spat out the whole site map and wireframes. I'm like, oh, boom.
So sweet, right? So sweet, right? Yeah.
I'll take some of that.
And if you use it and it doesn't have to be super complicated, you know, and you can actually use that stuff, it's really cool. The only thing I really wish they were great at or did something with would be facet stuff with like the Woo stuff, any kind of e-commerce. If they could actually come up with better facet search, I would love that. I got a site and I just keep screwing around with facet plugins and spending my money, and everything's junk. It doesn't work. I
think that's probably more a WooCommerce problem than it is Elementor, though.
Yeah, but it would be nice if they, I mean, you know, like SureCard with the Brainforce people, you know, with Astra and all that. They come up with that, and then they what's his name, Adam, you know, he come up and develop that SureCard stuff, and that's pretty cool. And it's all within the what you call it builder, the Astra builder, the Brainforce. I can't remember what it's called right now, but that one. And if you use that, it just kind of comes with it. Eventually people are going to want to build out their sites because it's nice and it's quick and it's, you know, super smooth, and you don't have to make it bloated anymore. I learned how to not bloat it because I had to, right? But now it's going to come in tight. And wouldn't it be great if they had their own styling for Woo and it really worked?
You know, I like about Bricks when I was playing around with it a few months ago is the dynamic data. So they can put like curly brackets, and you just choose dynamic. You can put it anywhere. Whereas in Elementor, you kind of got to use the pre or post stuff to try and add dynamic data. But in Bricks, you can put it anywhere. It's like, oh, boom, that would be great. So I've been talking to Verdi. Every time I talk to Verdi, I'm like, that dynamic data in Bricks, it's really, really good, you know.
Have you been mentioning it to him?
Yeah.
Has he
Yeah,
been
but
receptive? Has he been receptive?
yeah, well, he talks about it. He says, yeah, it's a good element, but they're a bit focused on this version editor 4. I think all the resources are going into that.
Well, I think so too. They were pretty excited about it. That
and
community was
the
pretty
AI.
excited about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
I mean, it's pretty cool.
every time I talk to him, I thought, oh yeah, dynamic data, Brick's really, really good. You should implement that. I'll wind them down. I'll grind them down. Okay.
Well, you're the only guy from your whole continent, right? Aren't you the only
Yeah.
you're the only element over there, right? I mean, you're
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're well known. I mean, that's why I come from US to I like it when I see your meetings and I know I'm going to be in the office late. But, it's 2:30 in the morning or something here, but I like your stuff and I follow, everything you write, post on LinkedIn and stuff. I follow what you say. And I think they should listen to you, but who am I?
Yeah. And who am I? So,
yeah. Well,
okay.
you're somebody. I'm nobody, but they know me. They know me because I raise hell. But
well,
but
that's
this year
it.
they know me. I talk good about it,
Yeah. Yeah. The louder you share, the more your voice gets heard. I know it's probably not fair, but that's the way that life works sometimes. So yeah. Right, I'm going to wrap up, everyone. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Nadia. Thanks, David. Belinda and Caroline's gone. So thank you very much. I'll repost the video and post the slides up on the Meetup, and I hope to catch up with you very, very soon.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Will.
Cheerio, everyone.
Thanks, Will. See you, bro.
Peace, Steve.
Take care.